Kia ora everyone, thank you for tuning in. I do appreciate it. Now, will be my part two of my first impressions of the Division beta. Um, in this video, we will be talking, well, I will be talking to you about the Dark Zone portion of the beta, aka the multiplayer, aka PvP, whatever you want to call it. Okay, so basically what the developers have done is that they've taken multiplayer and they've taken the campaign and they've fused them together to exist on this large map, one large map. Now, now in previous games you had to, if you were playing the campaign, you'd have to pause the game, save the game, quit the game, go back to the main menu, then select multiplayer if the player wishes to play multiplayer. Whereas in the Division, they've pretty much cut that whole thing out. So if the player is playing campaign and he or she wishes to play multiplayer, all the player needs to do is go to this one specific spot on the map, enter a checkpoint, exit that checkpoint, and and the player will instantly be in the multiplayer. And if the player wishes to exit the multiplayer, all the player needs to do is enter the checkpoint, exit that checkpoint, and you'll be instantly in your campaign story, single player campaign story. It's actually quite clever, really. Now, as for the purpose, what is the purpose of the Dark Zone? Well, in the Dark Zone, or also known as the PvP, is where players will find uh, powerful armor in the game. So if you are wanting powerful armor, powerful weapons like exotic weapons and super rare items such as attachments and stuff, your best bet is to go, or you'll want to go and venture into the Dark Zone because that's where all of the best weapons are. That's where the cream of the crop, so to speak, is. Now, uh, you don't, oh, idiot. Now, you don't have to go into the dark zone if you don't want to. That's completely up to you, the player. But if you want the best gear, you your best chance in finding the best gear will be in the dark zone. Okay, now all of the loot that you will retrieve off of fallen enemies and off of dead agents will be contaminated, or at least that's kind of what the game is. It's telling you that all of the loot that you have retrieved from the Dark Zone will be contaminated and cannot be taken out of the Dark Zone until it has been extracted by a helicopter. Now, now the beta doesn't really go into too much detail, if any detail at all, but for this beta, yeah, apparently the loot is contaminated, and the only way to take the contamination off of this looted off of your looted items is to extract it via helicopter, apparently, for whatever reason. So, and the only way to extract your looted items is to go to an extraction zone. Now, in the beta, there were three different positions where you can um, extract your loot. Now there is a waiting time. So I think it was about a 1 minute and 30 seconds, maybe give or take. I can't quite remember the right time, but I think it was over a minute where you had to wait for the helicopter. You had to shoot your flare and then wait for the helicopter for over a minute, whatever the time was. And you have to wait there until the helicopter comes. Once the helicopter comes, it'll throw you a line, and you have to run to that line, press and hold square, or press and hold X on the Xbox One controller to attach your looted items onto the rope. Once it's on the rope, once you've successfully attached your loot onto the rope, it is now um, extracted, like your loot is safe and cannot be taken off of the rope by, let's say, another agent. Yeah, so that's pretty much the basics. That's pretty much the purpose of the Dark Zone, is to go in there, kill enemies, kill rogue agents, or become a rogue agent if you want to. Um, uh, Retrieve loot, retrieve the best loot, which it will be in the Dark Zone. Retrieve it and try and extract it without dying. Um, yeah, this concept uh, is interesting. Like, I like how players are are put into this dark zone, into this zone where you're not too sure who's friend and who's foe until the very last minute or the very last 3 minutes. I kind of like that, because there have been many times where I have been at an extraction zone and waiting, and then it'll be like just me by myself. It'll be just me waiting for the helicopter. But then suddenly I see another two agents coming, and they've got loot, and then next thing you know, I see another two agents coming. They've got loot, so they all want to, um, um, use the extraction zone. So, and it's in that time where when we're waiting for the helicopter, that's when everyone's like looking at each other, wondering, is someone gonna turn rogue? Is someone gonna kill me and then take my loot? You, it's a really at times it can be very tense, and I mean very very tense. There was a part where my heart was beating so hard, because I didn't know, was someone gonna like throw a bomb, and then everything just turns into a big humongous gunfight, so I quite like that. And there have been times where I've been killed, where I've been at an extraction zone waiting, and the next thing you know, a whole gunfire broke out and I ended up dying, you know. Terrible. But there have been times, where I was able to run away, which is the best bet, because sometimes there's just too many, or else there'll be a group, two groups, that are wanting to extract their loot. And the thing is that the helicopter can only take a certain amount of loot at one time. And I think the number might be four. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I might be wrong, but I think the amount of loot bags that the helicopter can carry at one time is either four or five. I'm not too sure. So if there are, let's say, 6 or 7 agents at one extraction zone wanting to use the helicopter, you know, then that's when things start to get a bit uh, awkward, because there's only 4 or 5 spaces for loot bags, you know. But there may be 8 agents wanting to use the extraction zone, the same extraction zone, and there have been times where everybody just ended up killing everyone. It was, because there's not enough space, for everybody's looted bags. There, those encounters are very cool, and very like I like that idea that you're not too sure who's going to be rogue. You're not too sure who is friend and who is foe until the last few seconds. It's such a cool idea, and for the most part, it does work, and I think it does work quite well. Yeah. And the worst thing, the thing that you do not want to do, is be the last person to try and extract your loot, because there have been times where I've wanted to extract my loot, but the slots have already been taken up, like 4, 5 slots, whatever the slots were, uh, already had bags, so the rope was full, and I was the only agent out of the, what was it, 5 or whatever. I was the last one to put their loot on, but there were no more slots left. So, So all of the other agents had put their loot on. I was the only agent with my loot still on my back, and everyone was looking at me, and I was like, oh crap, I'm the only guy with loot now. So I gapped it, and I ran and ran and ran to the closest checkpoint. I ran to the closest checkpoint or safe house. It was one of those two. I can't remember, but dude, my heart was pumping, like, and I could hear um, shots, gunshots being fired. I don't know if they were trying to shoot at me, trying to get my loot, but dude, as soon as I noticed I was the last agent, like, I was the only agent with loot, I ran. I ran and ran to a checkpoint, uh, which I did make it. Luckily, I made it safe and sound. I restocked, waited for a little bit, sort of waited for a little bit for them to maybe go away or walk off to, wherever. Then I opened, then I I exited, blah, blah, blah. I don't know how to speak English, but then I came out of the checkpoint again, had a look, okay, coast is clear, went straight to an extraction zone and then done it again, which my second time I was safe. Thank goodness. Yeah, so those were pretty much the positive sides of the Division's Dark Zone, and I think those points that I've talked about is pretty much the Dark Zone's strongest points out of overall. But where is the not so good experiences? What are the downfalls of the dark zone? Where does the dark zone kind of fall flat on its face? And I think for the most part I found it difficult to understand what I was actually doing in the dark zone. Like like is the dark zone primarily for finding loot, or is it also a place where agents or players can kill other players, similar to any other multiplayer where you've got team deathmatch and capture the flag and free for all, all of those multiplayer genres. Where are those? As far as the beta was concerned, there was no um, team deathmatch. There was no team deathmatch, no free for all, no capture the flag, nothing like that. Nothing like that. It was just an open world multiplayer where you kill enemies and kill rogue agents or become a rogue agent. Um, as far as matchmaking, as team deathmatch, all of that stuff was not in the beta, and I don't know if the developers are going to put team death matches into the Dark Zone and free for all and capture the flag and all of those. Are they going to put those into the final game? I don't know, because if this is the Dark Zone, like if what we saw in the beta is going to be in the final version, I don't know if people will like that very much, because I've come to grow in to like the PvP, like the actual multiplayer, like the team death matches and stuff. That's kind of what I like to do when I play multiplayer. But this here, the Dark Zone, has none of that. You're just running around hoping to stumble across some enemies to kill so you can rank up your multiplayer rank. Which I don't know, like for me, I think they need to add um, PvP. They need to add actual missions to the Dark Zone, or at least that's what I think, anyways. So now the question is, will that be enough? If that is the final product, then will that be enough? Just having players running around, just sort of trying to find enemies to kill so that they can find loot. Is that enough for players? And I don't know if it is. Can and I think the, the the developers, I think, in my opinion, need to put in some matchmaking in the Dark Zone, as well as um, maybe Dark Zone missions. Like for instance, you know how in Destiny you've got raids and strikes where you can um, play missions with your friends as well as play missions with randoms. I think having a raid, a strike, or something similar to a raid and strike in the Dark Zone, I think by having matchmaking as like team death matches and all of that, as well as Dark Zone missions, aka raids or strikes, something like that, I think would would put the purpose in the dark zone. Like for me, that's what I'll do. I'll be like, cool, I want to go into the dark zone and I want to do some raids as well as I want to play a bit of PvP. Player versus player, capture the flag, whatever the case may be, whatever I feel like. And I think that's what the Dark Zone is missing. Because I think what we saw in the beta, I don't know if that's enough for players. Just sort of running around trying to find loot. I don't know if that's going to hold players for a long time. Whereas raids, you know, I think that will hold people's attention for much longer. Matchmaking, team deathmatch, free for all, I think that will be what the players will come back for. Is that not uh, uh, um, uh, the loot? I mean, I can still see people finding loot, but I think you should also I think the developers should also put loot in the raids as well as in the matchmaking. So after you play a PvP match, whatever the case may be, you get some loot. You get some attachments. After you play the raid, you get some attachments. Or as you're killing enemies in the raid or in the strikes, you get loot. Where the players can pick up and stuff. And I think that is what the Dark Zone is missing, in my opinion. Matchmaking and Dark Zone missions. And you know what? In my opinion, if I am to be brutally honest, I wouldn't mind for the developers to delay the game. Straight up, if it means they'll add Dark Zone missions, aka raids and strikes, as well as PvP matchmaking, I will be all for it. I say, yep, delay the game because I think that's where the Dark Zone will shine, and I think that's where what people kind of want too. They don't mind running around in circles looking for loot, but I think the raids and the PvP is where the players will most likely go to every time they're in the dark zone, or at least once every time they go into the dark zone. I mean, I'll play a raid so, so that I can get my rank up, so that I can get more money, so that I can get more rank, as I said before, idiot. But anyways, yeah, that's me. If they delay it, I reckon they should delay it so that they can add that stuff in. But yeah, hopefully they'll. I don't know, man. Anyways, that's my thoughts on the division. Will I get the game? I kind of do like what I'm seeing. Yeah, and I've been wanting a new IP anyways. And I've been looking forward to the division ever since the 2013 E3 trailer. So yeah, I think I might. I really like the game, but anyways, that's me. Thank you, people, for tuning in. I appreciate it. If you've lasted this long and haven't fallen asleep, I appreciate it. If you have, I understand. Anyways, that's me. I'm out. Peace.